He said I embarrassed him at dinner. Then he dumped me and made me pay the bill. But guess what? I showed up to his birthday with receipts. His mom, shocked. His dad, disappointed. His sister, cheered. This story gets crazy. Stay till the end. My boyfriend called me ugly in front of his friends and dumped me at a restaurant. And if that wasn't humiliating enough, he left me with a bill, a $312 dinner bill, then walked out laughing like I was some kind of joke. As he grabbed his coat and turned to leave, he said loud enough for the entire room to hear, "A girl like you should be thankful I even gave you a chance." Not then. I didn't cry. I just sat there numb, staring at the leather folder with the receipt inside, wondering how I ended up in this moment after 2 years with him. But I'll tell you one thing. This is not a sob story. This is the story of how I got even, how his whole fake life unraveled, and how the girl he called ugly made him regret ever opening his mouth. Let's rewind to how it all started. I'm 27. I manage a retail store, and up until last week, I thought I had a decent relationship. Not perfect, let's be real, but steady. So, my name's Lena. We did the usual couple stuff, movie nights, brunch dates, holidays with each other's families. I even kept a toothbrush at his place. My boyfriend, Ethan, and I had been together for 2 years. Funny, a little cocky, but in that confident, I know what I want kind of way. He wasn't always like this. In the beginning, he was charming, but over time, the red flags became harder to ignore. The backhanded compliments, the way he'd joke about my outfits, the constant stories about how stupid his coworkers were, how he was carrying the team at his big corporate job. I should have known. Bought a new green wrap dress on sale, but still hurt my wallet. Curled my hair, and did a full glam face using one of those influencer tutorials, where they somehow look like a different person at the end. A red flag in hindsight. But I was too busy worrying about whether my heels were too loud on the marble floor. Flash forward to last Friday. Said it was too boring for me, or not the place for girlfriends. He texts me, "Dinner with some colleagues tonight. Dress nice. 7 p.m. sharp." I was surprised, honestly. Ethan never included me in his work life. So when he invited me out with his coworkers, I was weirdly excited. I even went shopping. I felt pretty, for once. The restaurant, one of those fancy downtown places where everything has truffle on it, and they don't list prices on the menu. I spotted Ethan at a table with 2 guys, tall, suited, talking like they were in a Wolf of Wall Street sequel. I walked up, smiling. He didn't even stand all the way, just looked up and said, "You wore that," loudly. I froze for a second, then smiled, tried to make a joke, something like, "Oops, was there a dress code?" But no one laughed. The 2 men, Jake and Russell, exchanged a look like I was a stray that wandered into their executive bro club. I should have walked out right then, but I didn't. I sat down, and the next hour was brutal, throwing around terms like synergy and quarterlies while his friends nodded along, like trained seals. Ethan talked non-stop about work. Every time I tried to chime in, he talked over me, or worse, explained what I meant to his friends, like I was a child who didn't understand business. At one point, I mentioned something from my own job, something funny a customer said, and Ethan cut me off with, "Lena works in retail. She doesn't really get how corporate life works." Like I was beneath him. I smiled, said we met through mutual friends. I stared at my wine glass so hard I think I gave it trauma. Then Jake asked how we met. Ethan laughs and says, "Yeah, her friend basically begged me to give her a shot. Said she'd be heartbroken otherwise." Like I was some pity case. I laughed it off in that tight, fake way and excused myself to the bathroom. I locked the stall door and just sat there, not crying yet but close. Texted my best friend Monica something like, "If I fake my own death in the next 5 minutes, please know it's Ethan's fault. While I was in there, I got a notification. Ethan had just posted a photo on Instagram. Boys' night out. Boys' night out. They stopped when I sat down. Jake actually coughed awkwardly. I was literally sitting at the table with him, and he posted like I didn't exist. When I got back, they were all laughing. The waiter brought our food. I ordered pasta, the cheapest thing, because I was already getting anxious about the cost. Ethan looked at my plate and said, "Going heavy on the carbs tonight, huh?" Then to his friends, "She's got a big day of doing inventory tomorrow. Gotta fuel up." I felt my face burn. I stopped eating. Eventually, the bill came. Ethan picked it up, looked at it, then handed it to me. "You got this, right? Not attracted to you like I used to be." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. I looked at him, and he just stared back like he was bored. And then he said it. "I've been thinking, this isn't working anymore. He said it like he was commenting on the weather. "You should be grateful I dated you at all." Then he left, just walked out with Jake and Russell laughing, leaving me there. I paid all $312 of it, tip included. Then I got in my car, drove home, and sobbed into a pint of Rocky Road while Monica played angry Taylor Swift and made a list of all the ways we could ruin his life. That was the end of Ethan, or so I thought. What I didn't know was that Ethan's entire life, the job, the image, the confidence was one big lie. And by next week, that lie would blow up spectacularly. Because karma has excellent timing. Monica showed up at my apartment 30 minutes after I sent the emergency bring wine text. She didn't even ask what happened. Just walked in with a pint of Ben and Jerry, S in one hand and a bottle of red in the other, like a certified emotional first responder. The real MVP. Between ugly crying and rage-eating cookie dough, I told her everything. Every humiliating word Ethan said, the bill, the Instagram post, the final gut punch of "you should be grateful." She was livid. Like, I had to talk her out of driving to Ethan's place that night with a baseball bat and a gallon of bleach level livid. That's when she got quiet. She asked me again, "Wait, what did Ethan say about work at dinner?" I shrugged. Something about leading a new project, crushing quarterly targets, some big client pitch coming up. Monica looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Then she said, slowly, "Lena, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't think Ethan is who he says he is at work. Cody's the kind of guy who remembers birthdays and brings donuts on Fridays." Monica had mentioned Ethan to him once. Cody had looked confused. I blinked. "What are you talking about?" Turns out Monica has a friend, Cody, who works at the same company as Ethan. They're not close, but they're on the same floor. And now, 2 years later, Monica decided to text him. "Hey, totally random. Do you know a guy named Ethan Hart?" 10 minutes later, Cody replies, "Yeah." Why? She showed me the texts. And then Cody added, "If that's your friend's boyfriend, she should probably know he's not who he says he is." That night, after Monica left, I went full detective mode. Dates where he claimed to be on business trips. I just kept thinking about that restaurant. That moment when he made me feel so small. But I found a Venmo payment to a sushi bar across town from a mutual friend. I scrolled back through every text Ethan ever sent me. Photos, messages, stories, excuses. So many inconsistencies I'd never noticed. Like the time he said he was in Chicago for a marketing summit but tagged a local gym in our city. That same night on Instagram. Or when he said he couldn't make my birthday dinner because his boss called an emergency strategy session. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but the message preview caught my eye. Prints copies for people who actually do the real work. Hey, It's Cody. I got your number from Monica. There's some stuff you should know. I sat up so fast I scared my cat off the bed. Ethan once told his coworkers he had to fly to Miami for a pitch. He actually went to his parents' cabin and posted stock images of hotel lobbies on his story. Cody and I texted for the next hour. Apparently, Ethan isn't some hotshot marketing executive. He's not being fast-tracked for promotion. He's not even in charge of a team. Ethan is an administrative assistant. He makes coffee runs, schedules meetings. Cody told me all those business trips, completely fake. The big client meeting he bragged about last month, 3 DoorDash bags on the floor and 1 haunting the counter, like a ghost of poor financial decisions. He was the guy setting up the projector and handing out pens. I felt like the biggest idiot alive. 2 years. 2 whole years of this man spinning fantasy after fantasy. And I never questioned it, not once. What else had he been lying about? The next few days were that gross post-breakup fog. You know, the one when you cry randomly at microwave commercials. And your diet consists entirely of carbs and spite. My apartment looked like a disaster zone. Dishes everywhere. Laundry threatening to become sentient. The worst part, I kept having these dumb moments where I think of something funny and instinctively want to text Ethan, and then remember. That whiplash of grief and humiliation hit like a truck every time. By Wednesday, I broke and checked Instagram, and of course there he was. Jim's selfie, shirtless, flexing, captioned, "Level up, know your worth." The audacity. I almost threw my phone into the sink. But then something happened that flipped the switch in my brain. Monica came over that evening with Chinese takeout and her dog in a bodie for moral support, and we went through everything together. She showed me more texts from Cody. Apparently, Ethan had been telling people at work that he dumped me because I was clingy, that I was obsessed with getting married. Excuse me, sir. You had a Pinterest board titled Our Dream Apartment. Don't play. But Cody wasn't done. He dropped the real bombshell. Ethan was on probation at work for forging an email chain with a fake client to make it seem like he closed a deal, for taking credit for other people's projects, for screwing up reports and blaming coworkers. That's why he was working late. All the time he was scrambling to fix messes before someone found out. Cody sent screenshots. And that's when I got a phone call from someone I hadn't expected. Tina, Ethan's mom, like actual birthday cards in the mail, remembers my favorite cookies, asks about my job level suite. She's always been sweet. She sounded concerned. Is everything okay with you and Ethan? He told us you had a little fight. A little fight. He dumped me in front of a table full of strangers and left me with a $300 bill. I didn't want to put her in the middle. I said we were taking some space, but I stayed calm. That's when she said something that stopped me cold. Oh, that's such a relief. We're really looking forward to seeing you at his birthday dinner Saturday. Ethan said you two had big news to share. Big news. Apparently, Ethan told his entire family that not only were we still together, but that we were planning to move in together. I almost dropped the phone. They'd been kind to me. When I hung up, Monica stared at me like I had grown antlers. Is he delusional or just a pathological liar? She asked. I didn't answer, because in that moment, I was forming a plan. I wasn't going to ghost his family, but I wasn't going to play along either. I would attend that birthday dinner and let the truth come out naturally. The next 2 days were a blur of planning, nerves, and emotional prep. If I was going to walk into that dinner, I needed to be prepared. Not just emotionally, I mean strategically. I wanted everything to be so airtight that even Ethan's best lies would crumble like a stale cookie. I started with our texts. Times he claimed to be in New York, but his Venmo said he was at a sushi place down the street. Pictures from company events that Cody confirmed were actually downloaded from the corporate website. I went back months, maybe even years, looking for the little cracks in his stories. I found screenshots of Ethan bragging about a team he didn't lead, a promotion he didn't have, and meetings that never happened. It was all there. The only thing missing, timing. And that's when the universe handed me the perfect opportunity. Cody texted me. Cody was annoyed because he'd had plans, but then I had an idea. Apparently, their boss had asked him to help with something urgent Saturday night. What if, I asked slowly, you needed to drop something off at Ethan's house? During the birthday dinner, there was a pause on his end. Then Cody replied, you want me to crash the party, don't you? I didn't even have to answer. He just sent back, say less. I'm in. Friday night, Monica came over with 2 goals. Help me pick an outfit that screamed unbothered queen, and stop me from spiraling into self-doubt and bailing at the last minute. We settled on a black meaty dress, the one Ethan once said made me look plain. Funny how that dress always got me compliments when he wasn't around. Hair, sleek, makeup, natural but flawless. Nails, done. Backbone, reinforced with steel. I still barely slept that night. What if it backfired? What if I froze up? What if I walked in and Ethan made himself the victim again? I was chewing my nails down to nubs when I got a text from Ethan Saturday afternoon. Looking forward to tonight. Where's something nice? My parents are excited I didn't respond. I actually had to do those breathing exercises from the meditation app I downloaded and never used. Let him live in delusion a little longer. At 6:15 p.m., I pulled into his parents' driveway. Fashionably late, Lena. Come on in, kiddo. There were cars everywhere. His whole extended family must have shown up. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. This was it. The entire house smelled like a memory I hadn't realized I would miss. Time to walk into the lion's den, except the lion was a man baby with a fake resume. I rang the doorbell. Ralph, Ethan's dad, opened the door with a big grin and gave me a warm hug. Tina was in the kitchen finishing her famous pot roast. I walked into the living room and there he was, Ethan. Then, like clockwork, he plastered on that smug smile and walked over to hug me, drink in hand, mid-laugh with his cousin. And when he saw me, he froze. Just froze. Oh, is it what I think it is? His eyes widened like he'd seen a ghost. You actually came, he whispered. We need to talk privately. I smiled sweetly, loud enough for the whole room to hear. I wouldn't miss your birthday, babe, especially with that big news you told everyone we had to share. Color drained from his face. Tina clapped her hands, beaming. His sister Kayla raised one eyebrow at me like she already knew what was up. The pot roast was front and center, the salad untouched, and Ethan looked like he might melt into his seat. Ralph made some joke about grandkids. Ethan tried to steer me toward the hallway, but his mom called everyone to dinner. Perfect. We all sat down at the table, me, Ethan, his parents, his grandma, Kayla, and 2 cousins whose names I always forgot. He kept shooting me warning glances like I was a bomb about to go off. And honestly, I was. The first few minutes were filled with awkward small talk. Tina asked about my family. Ralph talked about golf. Ethan kept jumping in to control the narrative. When Tina mentioned how proud they were of Ethan's promotion, I nearly snorted water out of my nose. He jumped in, of course, started rambling about scaling marketing campaigns, synergizing lead funnels, and other buzzwords that sounded like someone swallowed LinkedIn. Then Ralph quiet, gentle Ralph asked, how's the Johnson account going? That's the one you're leading, right? Ethan stammered. Something about pivoting deliverables. It was total nonsense. That's when Kayla caught my eye. She didn't say anything, just raised one eyebrow like, do it. But I waited. Bided my time. Then Tina brought up the big news. She was glowing, genuinely excited. Are you two finally moving in together? Ethan said you were looking at apartments. I just smiled. Oh, we've definitely been talking about the future. Ethan dropped his fork. Literally. It clattered on his plate and echoed through the room. Before anyone could press further, the doorbell rang. I looked down at my phone. Cody. I'm here. Tina got up and said, oh, that must be Cody. Ethan whipped his head around so fast I thought he gave himself whiplash. Tina returned, beaming, with Cody following close behind, holding a manila folder like a real-life plot twist. Ethan tried to stand. Mom, we can talk in the other room. Ralph interrupted. No, you two can talk here. We're all family. Cody sat down next to me. I had saved him the seat, obviously. Ethan looked like he was about to combust. Just need Ethan to sign something for Monday. Sorry to barge in, Cody said politely. Before Ethan could grab the folder, Ralph asked, how's the presentation going? The one Ethan's in charge of. Cody hesitated, looked at me, then Ethan, then back to Ralph. He cleared his throat. The presentation was good, but, actually our boss gave it. Ethan helped with the slides. Silence. Ralph furrowed his brow, but Ethan said he was leading it. I jumped in, calm as ever. Hey Cody, didn't Ethan get promoted recently? What's his new title again? Another pause. Then, softly, administrative assistant. In the marketing department. Kayla let out a breath like she'd been holding it for hours. Tina blinked. Wait, I thought Ralph held up a hand. Let's hear him out. And with that, the floodgates opened. Everyone started asking questions. What about the corner office, the team he leads, the business trips? Ethan was cornered, and he knew it. He kept looking at me like this was my fault, like I had pulled the rug out from under him. But all I had done was hold up a mirror, and the reflection was devastating. So there we were, seated around the dinner table, me, Ethan, his family, and Cody watching Ethan's entire web of lies collapse in real time like a Jenga tower on a trampoline. The room had gone so quiet, you could hear a pin drop, or in this case, a fork, because Ralph, Ethan's dad, had just set his down very deliberately, like someone trying not to lose their temper in front of guests. Tina looked stunned. Kayla looked vindicated. His grandma? She was shaking her head like she'd just realized her grandson was a Hall of Fame-level disappointment. Ethan tried to laugh. I think there's some confusion, he said. I have multiple roles. Titles are fluid right now. It's a restructuring thing. That fake, forced chuckle he always used when he was losing control. Cody shifted in his seat, but didn't say anything. I could tell he was trying to stay neutral, but even he was over it. And that's when Kayla, bless her no-filter heart, asked point blank, so, Ethan, do you or do you not manage a team? Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then finally mumbled, well, not technically, but I'm in a mentoring position. Kayla nodded slowly, like she was trying not to burst out laughing. Mentoring? You mean the two interns? Silence. His grandma suddenly piped up. Didn't you say you had a corner office with a view? At the table. In public? Ethan looked trapped. His eyes flicked to me like he expected me to save him. The one where you met Leonard and Pablo. But I just reached for the bread rolls. You broke up with her, at dinner, in public, because I wasn't done yet, actually. I said casually, Ethan, and I just had dinner with his friends last week. What was the name of that place again? Babe. Ethan's face turned the color of undercooked salmon. Cody coughed into his napkin like he was trying not to laugh. Anyway, I continued. That was the night Ethan told me I didn't fit in with his successful friends. Then dumped me. Kayla went to answer it and came back with Monica. You could have heard a pin drop, except this time it was Ethan's water glass tipping over and spilling across the tablecloth. Tina gasped. You what? Ralph looked like he'd just aged 10 years in 5 minutes. Ethan's voice rose an octave. Okay, this is getting blown way out of proportion now, I said, cutting him off. What's blown out of proportion is your entire life story. And that's when the doorbell rang. Again. Ethan jumped like it was the Grim Reaper. Yes, my Monica. My best friend. My ride or die. My bring dash a dash pint dash of dash ice dash cream dash a dash 2 a.m. friend. She walked in like she owned the house. I figured you'd need backup, she said, setting down a tote bag that I would later learn contained both snacks and printed receipts. Because she came with a PowerPoint on a flash drive. Monica sat down next to Cody, gave him a polite nod, then looked Ethan dead in the eyes and said, I brought the files. His mom blinked. Files? Monica smiled sweetly. Just some fun reading. Lazy dates. Fake business trips. Fabricated promotions. We cross-checked everything. She even found one of Ethan's fake LinkedIn endorsements from an account he made himself under. The name Martin Scorsese. Kayla full-on snorted. Is this true? Tina looked heartbroken. Ethan was beet red. Why are you all ganging up on me? This is insane. She's twisting things. He said Ethan told him I was a toxic ex who couldn't take a hint. Oh, I said calmly. Should we call Pablo and Leonard? Maybe they can clarify. At that, Cody actually pulled out his phone. I already asked Pablo, he said. He felt awful, by the way. You could see the shame ripple through the room. That's when Ethan snapped. I made it all up, okay? The job, the title, the team. But can you blame me? Nobody respects a guy who's still fetching coffee at 30. I wanted you all to be proud of me. And when it finally crumbled, instead of taking accountability, he lashed out like a spoiled child. I wanted her, he pointed at me, to think I was worth something. He slammed his hand on the table, knocking over a wine glass. You all want the truth. Fine. I didn't flinch. Because for the first time, I realized it wasn't about me. Ethan's entire personality was a fantasy built to impress people who were already rooting for him. His grandma muttered. Something under her breath might have been what a jackass, but I couldn't be sure. Then Ethan stood up, pointing at me with shaking hands. You should be grateful I even dated you. Look at you. You think you're some big deal now? You were nothing before me, Tina gasped. Ethan, Kayla stood up like she was ready to throw hands. Nothing to you. But guess what? I'm so much better without you. But I stayed seated. I looked him right in the eye and said, You're right. I was nothing. He looked stunned, like he expected me to cry. Instead, I grabbed my napkin, dabbed the corner of my mouth, and said, Thanks for dinner. Oh wait, that's right. I paid for the last one. Ethan grabbed his coat and stormed out. No one followed. We just sat there. Cody helped me rinse the dishes. Monica updated our group chat with a single sentence, still, breathing, processing, until Tina whispered, Would anyone like some cake? And just like that, we all started laughing. Because what else can you do when your ex-boyfriend explodes at his own birthday party? In front of his entire family? We had cake. Tina cut me the biggest slice. Ralph poured wine. Kayla toasted to reality checks. Y'all, he really said you should be grateful. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through all the texts, missed calls, and voicemails Ethan left after his grand meltdown. But I didn't reply, not one word, because some chapters don't need a sequel. They just need to end. That night after the birthday dinner meltdown, I slept like a baby for the first time in weeks. Not out of joy let us not get carried away, but because it felt like I'd finally dropped a weight. I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. Ethan was out of my life. The truth was out in the open, and his entire self-made CEO fantasy had collapsed in front of the people. He'd worked so hard to impress. But of course, it wasn't over. Not even close. I woke up the next morning to 3 voicemails, 8 missed calls, and a text that simply said, "You ruined everything. Hope you're happy." I just stared at it, blinking. I was happy. Or, more accurately, I was peaceful, which is even better. I blocked his number without responding, tossed my phone on the nightstand, and made myself a coffee that I paid for with my own money and dignity intact. Cue the victory music. But about an hour later, my phone rang again. Not Ethan. It was Tina, and she sounded terrified. "Sabrina," she said, voice shaking, "you need to check your Facebook." But I logged in and there it was. Now, I don't use Facebook much. It is mostly for birthdays and stalking people I went to high school with to see who peaked early. A 13-paragraph public post from Ethan. It was unhinged, rambling about how snakes in the grass had betrayed him, how certain women had used him for his success, how his own family had abandoned him for clout-chasing liars, and of course how cancel culture had come for him. Cancel culture, as if getting exposed for lying about his entire life was the same thing as being fired from a sitcom. But the worst part, he'd posted a photo of me. A private one, me asleep on his couch, no makeup, mouth open, probably drooling. Captioned, "Miss Perfect who ruined my life." This is what I got in return. I felt sick and furious. Not the kind of thing you expect them to weaponize like a high school mean girl. That picture was from early in our relationship. One of those dumb candid shots you trust your partner with. That's when Monica called. She didn't even say hello. Just, he did what? Send me the post. I'm going DEFCON 1. And let me tell you, Monica at DEFCON 1 is terrifying. Well, she and Kayla started screenshotting everything. For legal purposes, yes, legal. I called Cody, who told me Ethan had also been messaging people at their job trying to spin a new story, saying I was a manipulative ex who turned his family and co-workers against him. Because I couldn't handle rejection. Cody just sighed and said, HR's gonna love this. By noon, Ethan had gone full scorched earth. He made 3 different backup Instagram accounts to stalk and message me, one of which had the username truth_wins89, where he posted a video rant in his car with the AC blasting and sunglasses on. It was giving divorced dad energy. Not gonna lie, I didn't even watch the whole thing. Just caught enough to hear him say, "Some people can't handle greatness. That's why they try to tear it down." Monica left a comment under it that said, "You got fired from a PowerPoint job. Relax, Rockefeller." But the real plot twist came that evening when Tina called again. This time she was crying. Apparently, after his little social media meltdown didn't get the sympathy he wanted, Ethan showed up at his parents' house drunk. He started yelling in the front yard about how everyone had betrayed him. Ralph had to physically stop him from breaking a window. Kayla had to call the police not to press charges, but just to get him off the property safely. Tina said he's never acted like this before. She didn't even recognize her own son. She apologized again and again. I didn't know what to say. Honestly, I felt bad for her because it wasn't her fault. Ethan was a grown man who made his own choices. And his choice was to lie, manipulate, and lash out when caught. But then came the next bombshell. The next morning, Cody texted me, "Hey, just so you know, HR wants to talk to me and a few others. I think Ethan's getting formally investigated, apparently." One of the interns came forward with screenshots, showing Ethan had been taking credit for their work, copying their slide decks and presenting them as his own to management. One intern even had an email from Ethan telling him to stay in his lane when he asked why his name wasn't on a client report. Guess who was BCC'd on that email? Cody. And Cody sent it straight to HR. I was drinking Diet Coke straight out of the can like a gremlin. It was perfect. By the end of the day, word got out Ethan had been suspended. Pending full investigation, Monica and I toasted over FaceTime that night. She was drinking wine, but the cherry on top, Kayla invited me to lunch a few days later. I almost said no. I thought it might be awkward, but I'm glad I went. Because over tacos, she told me something I will never forget. Processing. I didn't tell you before because I hoped it wasn't true. But I think you deserve to know. Back when Ethan and I were still dating, he told Kayla that he was planning to propose. Not because he loved me, but because he wanted to prove to his ex that he could lock down a 10. I sat there, blinking at her. Kayla looked at me and said, I thanked her, because I did deserve to know. Not just the lie Ethan told his family, not just the lies he told me, but the ones he told himself. When I got home that night, I lit a candle, turned on some trashy reality TV, and finally deleted the last folder I had of our old photos. No sadness, no regret, just peace, and maybe a little gratitude, not for Ethan, but for finally choosing myself. It's been 3 months since everything exploded. 3 months since I showed up at Ethan's birthday dinner and watched his fantasy life unravel in real time. 3 months since he stormed out, humiliated, screaming about how I was the reason everything fell apart. And you know what? I'm still standing. Better than ever, actually. Ethan, on the other hand, not so much. After the HR investigation, he was officially terminated from his job. Not just because of the lies, but because he forwarded confidential client files to his personal email, supposedly to work from home, but really just to look important. One of the interns filed a formal complaint. Another quit because of how Ethan had treated him. By the time the company let him go, Ethan had burned so many bridges it was like a wildfire. He tried applying to other marketing firms in the city, but guess what? Marketing is a small world, and when your entire work history is fake, people catch on fast. Apparently, someone from HR even contacted Cody for a reference. Cody told the truth. No exaggeration, no dramatics, just facts. I honestly think that hurt Ethan more than anything else. After getting fired, he moved back in with his parents temporarily. Tina, bless her soul, still sent me a handwritten apology card. Inside it said, I wish I could go back and see the signs. I'm so sorry for what he did to you. She included a $25 gift card to my favorite coffee shop. Kayla told me he wasn't talking to anyone, not her, not Ralph, not even his grandma who used to baby him like royalty. Apparently, Ralph finally said what we were all thinking. You don't get to act like a victim when you built your life on lies. That's when Ethan decided to leave the state. He packed up whatever dignity he had left and moved in with his uncle in Nebraska, of all places. No job lined up, no prospects, just a laptop, a suitcase, and a reputation in shambles. As for me, well, I've been doing okay. Better than okay. If I'm honest, the throw blanket he used to steal every time he came over. I'd be one of those I don't do relationships people who post cryptic breakup quotes on Instagram stories every other week. At first, I was scared I'd never trust again, that this whole thing had shattered something inside me permanently. But then, something unexpected happened. I started healing. I decluttered my apartment, got rid of the things that reminded me of Ethan, the candle he lighted, the stupid mug that said hustle hard. I replaced them with things I love. Bright colors, soft fabrics, a velvet chair I'd always wanted, but Ethan said was too much. Seriously, if you ever need a laugh, search #alpha-energy and prepare for the secondhand embarrassment. Turns out, I am too much, and I'm not sorry about it anymore. The collapse. Cody and I still talk. We Ray not dating though Monica is still convinced we Ray soulmates and tries to casually set us up every other week, but we grab lunch sometimes. He sends me memes. I send him screenshots of Ethan's old cringy tweets that somehow still float around online. It is funny how much comfort you can find in someone who witnessed your worst days. And didn't he flinch? Cody was there through all of it. The lies, the unraveling. He saw me fall apart and he saw me put myself back together. That kind of quiet friendship, it's priceless. A few weeks ago, something weird happened. I ran into Ethan at Target. I was in the candle aisle, smelling something called Midnight Fur, and wondering if I could justify buying a $1.12 candle for no reason. Then I looked up, and there he was, dot pale. Messy hair, hoodie that looked like it hadn't been washed in a month, holding a pack of socks like his life depended on it. He saw me, froze, and then turned around and walked out. Didn't say a word, didn't cause a scene, didn't even buy the socks, just abandoned his cart and disappeared. I stood there for a minute, heart racing. Then I picked up that Midnight Fur candle and put it in my cart, because that moment deserved a souvenir. Looking back now, I think the hardest part wasn't the breakup. It wasn't the lies. It wasn't even the public humiliation. It was realizing how much of myself I had shrinked just to fit into his version of what a perfect girlfriend should be. I'd lowered my voice, dimmed my light, laughed at things that weren't funny, paid for dinners he bragged about later, all to protect his fragile ego. But you know what? No more. I am done making myself small so someone else can feel big. Done believing that being chosen is the same thing as being valued. Done confusing crumbs of affection with love. I used to think Ethan's biggest betrayal was lying about his job, or our relationship, or who he was. But really, his biggest betrayal was making me forget my own worth. But I remember now, and I'm not going back. So yeah, that's the story of how I found out my boyfriend of 2 years was a fraud. How I exposed him at his own birthday dinner. How he tried to destroy me with a blurry couch photo and ended up getting fired, dumped, and exiled to Nebraska. How I met some of the most unexpected allies along the way. And how I became the main character of my own life again. Do I have trust issues now? Yes. Do I regret anything? Absolutely not. Because sometimes rock bottom isn't the end. It's the launch pad.